And good evening, everybody. This is a presentation of HNGN News. I am your host, John Leiberman, true crime contributor for HNGN. We're glad that you're here. We have a very important case to discuss tonight. It's the case of Kristy Smelcer's brother. Her brother was murdered in a small Tennessee county. It's still unsolved. And in fact, Bedford County, Tennessee has a huge number of unsolved cases. I want to get right to Kristy right now. Kristy, your brother was murdered. If I remember right, first he went missing in 2010, Bobby did. Tell us about the circumstances surrounding his disappearance.
He went missing. Last time he was seen was November 21st, 2010, and he was actually at work. It was on a Sunday morning, and some family members seen him that day. And there was also a couple other people that said they seen him that afternoon. That was the last time. Home, his blood drops were found by the front door, which later turned out to be his, and his back door was left wide open. All his belongings were left behind: keys, cell phone, anything personal items were left. There was a pair of jeans in the bathroom that were actually kind of cut up, ripped apart, and had later turned out to be his blood on them. And, we've done many searches. And then like 18 months later, a man did discover Bobby's skull in the Duck River.
Let me back up just a minute and ask you this. Who was the last person who saw Bobby alive?
The person that actually admits to seeing him alive is George Mason, who was a friend of Bobby's.
And he was questioned, I'd imagine, and what came out of that questioning?
He was questioned, and I'm sure they do still kind of probably look at him as a suspect, maybe. But nothing came out of it as far as any answers as to what actually happened with Bobby. He did tell why he was there that afternoon, that he had stopped by, and so he is the last one that admitted to actually seeing him. I don't believe he was the last one to see him, but...
Who would have a motive to kill Bobby?
Well, I've been, asked that question many times. The only thing I can think of is Bobby told me that he knew too much about some certain people in that county. And the only person I can really listen to as far as trying to determine a motive to kill Bobby would be actually coming from him. And he had been upset, and I noticed it, and I started questioning him about why he was upset, and he told me that he knew too much. So,
do you have any idea what that meant? Knew too much about criminal activity around the town? What did he know?
Yes, he knew about criminal activity. Some people that own quite a bit of property in that county, that some things that they had done in the past, he was telling me about. He was very concerned about it.
And do you recall the last conversation you had with your brother?
Yes.
What was the nature of that conversation?
Well, the last time that I actually got to speak with Bobby was right about the time that he was moving to Bedford County, and he had told me that something big was about to happen in Shelbyville, and I asked him what he meant by that, and he started telling me some things that, like I say, about this certain people there, that he knew too much, and he didn't want me to know, I guess, what he knew. He was trying to keep me from knowing, so I think he may have even kind of changed the story up a little bit. From what he was telling me, he knew something about a bank robbery, that someone else had done the time for these people, and one person was going to be getting out that was going to want their money.
Was he a police informant, would you say?
My brother?
Uh-huh.
No.
No. So
No.
it wasn't that he, that he knew things and that he was talking to law enforcement, at least to your knowledge.
No.
What did he do for a living?
He was a master mechanic. He was very good at what he did.
Did he have any known enemies in town that you knew of?
No, I think he had a lot of shady people around him, but as far as an enemy, I just, Bobby, he's such a strong person. I think if he was confronted with something, that he would not back down, and that may have been his demise. I'm not sure, but as far as I know, at the time, he did not have any enemies. He was just telling me he knew too much. And
What
he
is
was,
that moment like when you find out, first of all, that your brother has been missing and then presumed murdered? What is that like?
it's unexplainable. It's something I would never wish on anyone. You just go into like almost a shock mode at first, and you're just searching and searching, trying to find them, trying to locate them, trying to figure out what happened. And it's just, it's kind of unexplainable, really. You just really don't know the experience unless you go through it. I'd heard, seen cases on TV and that of missing people and seen their families so distraught, but I never realized, what they were really going through.
And I guess my question too is his skull was found. The
Yeah,
rest of him has not been located as of right now.
right.
But
True.
yet, even with the skull, it doesn't appear any closer to murder charges in this case.
No, it does not. No.
What is the latest in the investigation as far as you know?
As far as I know, I don't really think a lot is being done in the investigation, to be honest with you. I think if something comes up, they may follow it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I only know this and am saying this because I've been, working with them and through them for the past few years now. And so I don't really think much is happening in his case. I mean, we're getting, that's all been of our doings.
Right,
So,
you have spearheaded a lot of searches, you've done a lot of social media. Before we get to the other unsolved cases in this town, of which there are many, and it shocks me, and I've been asking for records, and it just shocks me the sheer number for such a small town of unsolved murders. It's almost as if, killings are rampant in this town. But before we get to that, let me ask you this, and that is, what can the public do to help you and your family?
I think what we all need to do is join together and try and get law enforcement to turn this over. We need help here, um, or in Bedford County. They need some new eyes looking into these cases, or maybe the FBI should come in with so many unsolved homicides. I do think that should be what happens. Um, I'm sure every family wishes for that, but this is a tremendous amount. It's not just Bobby. Um,
Yeah, let's talk about it because, by my count, we are talking, and I have been researching. I lost track, but just in the last, I would say, 5 years, you're talking about nearly a dozen unsolveds
mhm.
in this small town. Describe for me this county, Bedford County. It's very small.
I love the county. Yes, it is a very small community. I was born and raised there, and I love Bedford County. And it used to be known for, it's the walking horse capital of the year, of the world. And it used to be known for, hospitality, good people, and walking horses. Now it's known for its crime.
And what is happening there? I mean, are we talking a serial killer? I think that could be a possibility. Some of the cases appear to be the same sort of MO. Some do not fit the pattern.
True.
What do you think is happening there?
I think that probably what is happening with these heinous crimes is there are not convictions. So therefore, people think that they can get away with this if it's not going to be investigated, if it's not going to be followed up on. And excuse me, if some have put work into it, then I thank them very much. But I think a lot more needs to be done. I think people think that anytime you have unsolved crimes like this, it's just going to exasperate if they're not solved and the people are not gotten off the streets.
Yeah, and it's not even as if people aren't being convicted. People aren't even being, arrested.
Correct.
And it just
Exactly.
it breaks your heart. Well, we're going to stay on this, Kristy. What would you say to your brother if he were listening right now?
I would tell him I love him very much and I miss him. And I'm sorry that we haven't found the rest of him yet, but mostly that I miss him. We all love him.
What will that moment be like when you're able to recover the rest of him and give him a proper burial?
I think that would help a lot. For one thing, when someone passes, death is not an easy thing to deal with at all in under any circumstance. Should not have been taken from not from natural causes. So I think that would help a lot with his children having a place to go to mourn him. And if we can get some the rest of him, I think it would tell us a lot and how he died. um, I've been taking criminal justice and forensics now, and I just think that there's more answers out there if we can find more of him, that we could get more answers.
Well, Kristy, our thoughts and prayers are with you, with your family. We will continue to profile this as much as we have to
Thank
until
you.
somebody is brought to justice in this case. So again, and we urge our viewers, if you know anything at all about what happened to Bobby Smelcer, how he was killed, please come forward, talk to law enforcement. You can still make a difference in Kristy's life and, of course, in a lot of lives. There are a lot of unsolved crimes in that community. We will be back with more cases, of course, and we need to help more families. For now, reporting for HNGN, I'm John Leiberman.